You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and with me today, it's Amy and Mark. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Kelvin, we've missed you. Oh.
I've missed you both too. It's nice to have the gang back together. Sans Christos, we miss him. But yeah, how's things been going? Tell us about last week.
As anyone who has listened to me over the past 7 years know, I absolutely love Star Trek Las Vegas. It was back at the dump of a Hotel Rio, which is our dump. It was still all the major complaints, but you don't care because it's about the people and the connections that you make and the new friendships and celebrating the old friendships and seeing the stars. A couple highlights was Zachary Quinto came and Ethan Peck came out on the stage together. That was amazing. And I actually asked a question to the Hageman brothers, who are the showrunners of Prodigy. And I'm hoping to be getting a fun little surprise in the mail, which we will be explaining later. But those were my highlights.
Oh, what about you, Mark? What did you think of the event? Is it your second STLV?
Oh, this is my third.
Third?
Yeah.
Hat-trick.
Third, yeah. I agreed on the dump of a Hotel Rio. It just gets worse and worse every year. And we were in the newer tower, the Masquerade Tower, and like they only had 2 working elevators out of the 4, and there was a queue, and you had to wait in line just to get up to your room. And then some people, thankfully we didn't, had like a fire alarm go off at like, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody had to be evacuated, but down the stairwell because they couldn't take the elevators, and ugh, not so fun. But it wasn't about that. Whatever. I didn't even focus on that. We had a good time. I got to see some people that I have been wanting to see for a while, like, LeVar Burton. And I got his autograph, get my picture taken with him, and that was really cool. Geez, the amount of stars I bumped into, like, just randomly, just throughout the convention, doubled this year from years past. Like George Takei, we were, drying our hands together in the bathroom at the same time and made eye contact, and I'm like, oh, it's George Takei. Stuff like that. It was cool. And I saw, Tuvok, checking out on the last day. Like, I sort of was standing next to him and almost said something, but then chickened out. So things like that was cool for me. I get a little starstruck. But as usual, it was the coming together of old friends, but also the meeting of new friends. And that was so much fun. Like for over at Cinema Z, like Matt and Les, like we've never met each other in person. So the fact that we get to hang out together at Masquerade was just so much fun. And I just love those guys. They're great.
Isn't it so cool when you realize you have that moment because we know each other online all so well, and it just kind of hits you that you're here, you're in the flesh, you're there. There's no screen between us. That happened to me on the cruise a couple of last year with Amy and a few others. But yeah, I'm glad you all had fun. I'm really glad. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't sick with jealousy that I wasn't there with you, but Davey and I had a good old time keeping the show going.
You guys had a little NSFW show there. That was fantastic. Loved it. Please listen back to the episode before this one.
So looking ahead to next week, you've had your STLV, and I've got a little convention next week. It's the Destination Star Trek, which is our European convention, and like Creations event, it's also lost its official status. So it's the first time it's the unofficial version, and it's not too heavy on the talent, shall we say. There's only a smattering of guests, but much like what Amy just said, it's the opportunity for all the UK Trekkies and the European Trekkies, the fans, to get together and party for a long weekend. So thank you for returning, Joe and you and to me, Amy. I plan to have a party with them over the weekend.
You almost didn't get him back because I was just hugging on tight when I dropped him off at the airport. Don't go. No, one thing that I hope that you will notice, if I don't know if you go to panels that much, but because of the strike, the questions and answering and the panels were completely different. Absolutely loved it. We should have a Don't Talk About the Show always in progress because you learn so much more about the actors. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on how they're doing their panels. So
yeah, they're all chargeable at destination, unlike STLV. So maybe it'll be worth the money to hear a few personal stories outside of Star Trek from people.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, good.
So away from conventions, it's been another busy week in the world of Star Trek in that we've had to say goodbye to Strange New Worlds this week for season 2. So let's jump over to the escape pod.
This is the bridge. All hands to emergency escape pods.
Okay, so this is the part of the show where we take a little dip out of our normal programmed events to reflect on new Star Trek that's aired this week. And as we just said, it was episode 10 of season 2 of Strange New Worlds, with a slight change of pace from episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody. We went straight into an action-packed Gorn episode. So, Amy, what did you think? You watched the episode with a bit of... You've done well with watching with Star Trek Family this year, haven't you? Yes. What an enjoyable season you must have had.
Absolutely. And it's so fun to think about the episode and like who I was watching it with. It's really lovely. We should do this more often. People come visit me. So, this episode, yes, I did know going into it that it was going to be a cliffhanger, which I didn't know it was going to be that big of a cliffhanger. And like it ended and I could hear Riker saying fire. I mean, it was that intense. I was so involved and then it just stops. I'm like, no. One cool thing that I loved is when they were finding how to get the Cayuga to land and take out the Gorn transponder communication blocker thing. That requires a lot of math. It's really cool, trigonometry. So I really liked that. I liked the character development that we got, especially with Pike. Like when he immediately sees Nurse Chapel, instant hug. So glad to see you. Like, what a response to have a leader, a captain, have that for you. I also liked Pike just really stood out for me in this episode. When Erica Ortegas was flying and going through with the shuttle to get down to the planet, and she's like, "I thought you were a test pilot," and his like trepidation and like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be sick. Oh my gosh, what is she doing? Like, it was so relatable. And usually, like, captains have to be stoic and don't show any emotion. But here he was, like, hanging on for dear life, as we all would be, because she was flying that, haphazardly, which she needed to look like debris. I have very much issues with the Gorn. I hate that they are still being described as monsters. Monsters don't have reasons, and the Gorn obviously have reasoning. So the fact that we haven't tapped into that yet is, I'm done with them being the monsters, the scary. I need them now to get to how are we going to resolve the situation. Because they're not monsters. They have sent communication. Here's the line between our borders, so don't cross it. They have built ships. They are traveling through space. So the fact that they're still being described as monsters is very annoying to me. I'm done with that. I need to get on with that story.
I mean, it's Pike's problem in terms of the monster aspect, because if you consider Starfleet have started negotiating, there's the, for want of a better phrase, the neutral zone aspect. So with the lead up to this, knowing this was the big Gorn finale, I expected a big declaration of war, out and out conflict, but really it's quite a localized issue of it's the Enterprise breaking the rules in a treaty negotiation. It's a little bit like the demilitarized zone aspect of when the Maquis started. So I was surprised by that. I thought it would be a bit more, cataclysmic of the Federation is at war again. But no, it was, just a negotiation around a planet. So, I know what you mean about the monsters. I think it's not. And also as well, I'm quite surprised at Pike for that. So maybe it was just the Captain Battelle aspect that is making him think. I could imagine of Laan saying the monsters with all the backstory there, but for Pike, for the leader, to be propagating that hate was a bit of a surprise.
Because Admiral April even says, well, monsters, we think they're monsters because they don't understand us and we don't understand them. Like Admiral April is even saying, no, they're not monsters. We just haven't figured out a way to communicate.
Yeah. What did you think, Mark?
Well, I think it made sense on some level for Pike because he's had a couple of people under his command already die. He was in the scenario. He saw the way that their bodies get taken over and whatnot. Like he experienced them firsthand in a similar way as Laan. And so I actually noticed his growth in this because at the start of it, he was thinking that they were monsters, but then he started to even recognize they were sentience as the episode progressed. So I liked that growth aspect. And I'm wondering if they're sort of just tiptoeing around canon right now of why it's not a war thing and why we're not seeing them more. I will say, though, that because I watched the Ready Room, I was tickled pink to realize that the large Gorn they showed at the end was actually a man in a suit. Like, that to me is cool. I love that they're doing practical effects. There's so much that they're getting right with this show, with the practical effects, with I guess a more simple type of the makeup and the set dressing. So like when we have Klingons, it's the easier style makeup that had been going on through the 90s because doing the Discovery makeup all the time is extremely expensive, right? And the Discovery costume is extremely expensive. But when they go back to what had been working and they go back to what they were doing in the 90s, it's a lot more effective. And also the fans love it, right? So we love that type of makeup style on the aliens. We love the practical effects. And the sets doing that callback to the 60s Trek where we're going to go on the Paramount backlot and we are going to film essentially in Mayberry and we're going to make it look like an alien world. I mean, as a show that's supposed to be a prequel to TOS, having this type of low budget, planet, I found hilarious. And especially it gave it a little bit of that balance for the heaviness of the episode. You also have the balance of the lightness of this is just they're on a goofy like world that looks like 20th century Earth. That's just funny. So there was a lot that I liked about it. Oh, and we cannot have this episode go by without talking about the Scottish elephant in the room. Montgomery Scott, as soon as he came on screen, I just started pointing and yelling at my TV. And I was like, that's Scotty, before they even said his name. And with his first line of dialogue, he was already more Scotty than the guy that they got to play Kirk. So I will leave it at that.
Yeah, it really feels like momentum is building now with Strange New Worlds, that they are getting to the point where the original series starts. I only actually watched the episode on Friday evening because I was doing a lot of travel for work, and I am so happy I avoided the Scotty spoiler. Despite someone sending it to me on Microsoft Messenger, thank you very much for that. I just didn't have time to read the message, so I'm grateful for my busy schedule. But the thing I saw in the planet sequence of it being oldie worldy, it's very original series, because how many times did Kirk and co beam down and it was the Wild West or gangsters and mobs? And for them to set the scene that here's a 1950s offshoot and kind of explain it, it really worked. It was very much a homage to just what they did anyway in the original series. So I saw that as a very deliberate thing, and just loved it. What did we think of the build up of Chapel's dead? Did you believe any of it? Did you think, well, she can't be, she's got plot armor because we know she survives? Or, any thoughts on the peril and the jeopardy of the episode?
It was good. I was a little worried, but I mean, we know that she's gonna be back. I mean, because she's in TOS. So I wasn't like scared, but I was worried that something happened to her, or that she would have been impregnated like Captain Battelle, with the baby Gorn eggs, and then that would have been disastrous. So it was real. I was scared for her. And what I liked was like Spock and Una, where Una's like, hey, I'm never going to tell you to lose hope. I want to see her too. And it's like that was worth it, even though I knew she was going to come back.
Yeah, I have suspended all of my kind of onto canon because of what they've done earlier in the season of Strange New World with the whole kind of World War III eugenics war, changing the timeline of when Khan appears. So I actually believed that they could kill Christine Chapel. And explain it as a ripple in time effect without it being another timeline or anything. So I was genuinely afraid that this is it. And then I was thinking, well, what a little girl's made of. Maybe Roger Corby created an android, Nurse Chapel in the original. My brain was going everywhere. So
Wow.
I bought it. I wasn't just sat there thinking, well, she cannot die. She's in the original series. So yeah, great episode, great cliffhanger to come.
Yeah. So I have a question. When Spock was saying that he's going to put the thrusters on the Cayuga.
Oh no.
Okay. Why? I listened twice. There was not any justification, any reason why Spock is the only person who can do this. The only person. It was never answered. And I'm like, okay, I know you're related to Burnham, but this is just going too far. Like, I'm the only one who can do this. No, there was nothing. Everyone's been trained to spacewalk. Anyone can carry the thrusters and put them on. He wasn't doing anything that required his specific talents. Now, unless I missed something. So can you answer that for me, please, Mark?
For more on this, check out Infinite Diversity on this network. The episode is out now. No, we do a deep dive on this week's Infinite Diversity because we all kind of were at the same place. And what we sort of came as a group to decide is that Spock, through his feelings and his rejection at this point of his humanness, is looking at his Vulcanness almost like a security blanket, and it's saying, no, because y'all are human and we'll have a hard time doing this and staying focused because of your emotional entanglements, I would be the best and most suited because of my Vulcanness. And so this is him going the complete other way with it and clinging on to his Vulcanness and saying, oh, because I am so logical and putting aside my emotions, I am the only one that can do this. It may or may not be correct, really, which we all kind of don't think it is correct, but this is where his head is at from a logic standpoint. I'm the best person because you all would be emotionally compromised and I will not be in this scenario. So, but more on that on
I mean,
Infinite
he could have just volunteered and been assigned. I think the way it was phrased was very, I am the only person. You can look at it as in like Vulcans can cope with oxygen deprivation a little bit better. They can calculate the flight path for getting over the fact they won't be emotionally compromised. All of that is true, but I mean, number one's an Illyrian. Who knows what she can do? You know, she's been genetically modified.
She can go out without a spacesuit and shoot electricity out her fingers. And
Yeah.
Okay. Any more thoughts on Strange New Worlds? Apart from the fact we're gonna have to wait so long for season 3 because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike, which obviously is very important, and we fully agree. But do we really need a cliffhanger right now with all this going on? Might be
I know, a
2025.
cliffhanger, that we don't know when the next one, like at least Best of Both Worlds, we knew we had 3 months, okay, I can wait till the fall and I'm not going to forget, but now this is going to be well over a year before we get it. So, oh goodness. I did just want to do one more shout out to Pelia, because now that we've got Scotty, I don't know if we're going to get Carol Kane back. Maybe for one episode, but I think Scotty's now coming in. So
she's going to continue to mentor him. That's my prediction.
Well,
that she will be on with him.
Yeah. Okay. And you know this how?
Just prediction.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea.
So, but a shout out to her. I did enjoy her this season, and especially every single time a character comes in, like she's the professor, I remember you, student. And she has this look. It's like, you could have been so much better if da 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 da. Like, and that look when you see students, I love it. I was relating exactly. I'm like, I got you, girl. Yes. You look at those students and you're like, you see so much potential. And then when they live up to it, it's just even better. So shout out to her as a teacher.
My best student with the worst grades.
Yeah.
Best line.
Okay, well, shall we move on to the matter at hand for today then?
Yes.
So today we are returning to our genetic engineering series with part 4, and we're going to be looking at Deep Space Nine's Statistical Probabilities from season 6. Previously covered in this genetic engineering series, we've discussed Strange New Worlds, Ghosts of Illyria, Deep Space Nine, Dr. Bashir, I presume, and the original series, Space Seed. So, Mark, how do you fancy giving us one of your infamous recaps of what goes on in this episode?
Yeah, I would love to, Calvin. That's great. Thank you. So, in this week's episode, Dr. Bashir is visited by a group of other human augments who have been temporarily placed into his care from a Federation mental institution. These augments don't fare as well as Julian did, and although they are a danger to themselves and others, their enhanced intellect does provide Starfleet with some strategic options to consider for how to end the Dominion War.
Ooh, well done. Thanks, Mark. So I thought we'd start off with a little bit of a deep dive on this particular group of augments, or the Jack Pack, as they get referred to as throughout. So we have, we have Jack, we have Lauren, Serena, and Patrick. So, Amy, who of the Jack Pack stood out to you? Who do you want to talk a little bit about?
Can we talk about Lauren? Because I don't understand this character at all. Like, why was she enhanced with seduction hormones? Like, what? I mean, she was smart. But why was she always being the seductress? It was weird.
Yeah.
Is there an
So
augment? Is there a gene therapy that accentuates the libido? I mean, is that what is supposed to be recognized?
I think this is symptomatic in that all 4 of these augments, something went wrong. So we're not saying that she has augmented pheromones like Orion women and she can make people fall in love. Just something has gone wrong that's made her particularly randy constantly. And she's a bit of a nymphomaniac. So that is just the way her character asserts itself.
She
I
has
did
Rick
find
Berman syndrome.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Rick Berman wrote the augmented DNA for this character, and as a result, she was a bit of a nymph. And
Okay.
yeah, I find that quite problematic. It's not something I find funny. It's not something I find entertaining.
Yeah.
It's just a team of male writers not knowing what's appropriate to write for a female character. And did you notice that apart from the scene where she was dancing, she was lay down in every single scene? She was on a
Yes.
bed. She was
Yes.
on the bed. It's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
First impressions there.
Yeah, and I guess it's could be seen as normally it's the creepy guy, and now we're getting the creepy girl. So maybe flipping it, a role reversal, because she was just creepy. Like if that was a guy, that would be like, ooh, creepy. Like stalking windows, creepy. You know.
So that's Lauren covered off. We'll come back to maybe a little bit more about Lauren in the trivia later. Who else did we have, Mark?
So there's a couple of films that come to mind when I think about these different characters. And one of them, of course, goes without saying, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is a masterpiece. And also featured the woman that was Kai Wynn. What was her name?
Louise Fletcher.
Louise Fletcher. Yeah, she played Nurse Ratched in the original One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So that movie comes to mind as far as the different levels of crazy that you have here. And also, there was a movie, forgive me, guys, you know my memory's not so good, but there was a movie with Michael Keaton that was from the early 90s or late 80s. And he played a mental patient that is being brought to, I guess, a baseball game. I think it was in Chicago, but they were on a van with a bunch of the people from the mental institution. And the guy that was in charge of them gets severely beat up at like a gas station or something, getting robbed. And then they all essentially like break off and go explore the city. But there is like this same sort of character dichotomy where there's different levels of the crazy, but they all together form a team that can help each other and work together. It was the same in Cuckoo's Nest. It was the same in that Michael Keaton movie,
And
where they work together.
Which is called the Dream Team.
The Dream Team.
4 mental patients go on a field trip in New York City.
Worth watching. Have you guys seen it?
I feel like I have, but it
No.
was way back in 1989. Well done, Mark. Late 80s.
See? But I like that idea because it shows that on the outside, when you first start watching the movies, you think, for both films, that each of these characters are nuts. They're just nuts. And you kind of, you start off watching the film with that in mind. But then as you continue with the films, you realize that each one has something unique to bring to the table. And you shouldn't write off any human being as just being sort of disposable or one note, in that they all have something to contribute. And so I think that's the message we get with this episode as well, is that although they all have quirks that do affect their ability to interact with other people, they all have something that they bring to the table which when they work together, they're able to accomplish quite a bit. So
Yeah, and did you get the sense that they were a team, that complement each other in skills, or were they just kind of four people thrown together? I'm not sure I got the teamwork aspect of them.
like a family unit,
Yeah, didn't get
dysfunctional
me.
family, but a family. Even Bashir's like a cousin that comes over at Thanksgiving.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. I did like how well they worked together once they were focused on a project. When they were seeing the interaction or seeing Damar do his simulcast, like they had a purpose. But I think it took something major like that to focus them all, that they all could focus. Because I'm sure, Jack would have an interest, but no one else is going to have an interest in working that problem. But here they had a problem that they all were interested, so it made him more a cohesive unit.
I was saying, looking at the four, we've talked about Lauren. We've mentioned Jack, who is the leader. So Jack was played by a guy called Tim Ransom, he's comes across very unpredictable, energetic, a little bit manic. But then we had Serena, who was completely catatonic and mute throughout the episode, played by Faith C. Sally. And then Patrick, who is overly sensitive and very childlike, played by Michael Keenan. So, yeah, a very, very different, very strange group. And I like the Bashir term that he said of but for the grace of God go I, as in Bashir could have ended up exactly like those.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jack was a lot like the Jack Nicholson character in Cuckoo's Nest or the Michael Keaton character in the Dream Team. However, the Jack character for me was those characters played by a lesser actor because he went a little too far over the Cuckoo's Nest for this particular episode. Like he took crazy, had fun with it, but took it to a level where it was almost hard to watch, in my opinion.
What this episode did very well is that you're getting the spectrum of genetic engineering, and then that conversation that they're having in someone's quarters. I don't know if it was Captain Sisko's or not. That they were discussing why it was important for Starfleet to say no genetically modified people in Starfleet. And we get this, well, Julian Bashir is okay, as Worf's like, oh no, you're the exception. The exception. Versus these four that it's obvious you don't want them working in Starfleet. So we're getting, and then that whole conversation of why we needed it, but look at how productive they can be. Like, so can we focus? Can we channel? Can we use them? And then is that the wrong approach? Are we really using them, or we're trying to help them be productive in society? But then that is under what do we deem as productive and good for society? So this episode doesn't answer, but it displays, and we talk about both sides of the spectrum. And I absolutely give credit to it, because I don't feel that we ended up with an answer, in my opinion, on that.
I feel this episode has very little to do with augments, really. If we look at the more kind of recent examples of, say, Una in Strange New Worlds, they go down the line of you've got this label, you've got this trait, you're not allowed to serve. We've done a deep dive on that subject. Whereas this collective group, I feel the allegory is more mental illness. And here are people who are unwell. And are they fit to serve? And can they contribute? So it gets me in the headspace and mindset of thinking of when there are community projects and you're getting people back into the world of work to afford them the ability to have relationships. And Bashir himself says if he had been institutionalized immediately upon his being found out to be genetically engineered, would he have ended up like that? So that is the kind of the moral dilemma of, had this group been allowed to live a normal life, if that's the right term to use, would they have actually ended up this far down the line? So that's what I found quite interestingly about this piece, the mental illness side of things.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, because these are for where there were problems. Like, this is the unexpected. This is what can happen. Like, we've got your normal curve, and Bashir is going to be the normal of this is, a positive thing in his life because now he's hand to eye coordination's better and he's smarter and like all the benefits he gets to take from. But then we have these four where it's like they wanted to have these benefits, but something went wrong. So yeah, like a mental illness, because this is the unexpected. And what do we do with that?
So there's our characters. And very quickly, we set them to task with getting them to analyze what's going on with Damar and Weyoun when they arrive on the station. And we get them analyzing situations, looking for hidden messages. And eventually, they start making projections, long-term analysis on casualty numbers, probabilities, which is clearly the episode title. And we get to this data-led decision of a recommendation to surrender to the Dominion in order to save lives overall, which kind of just got me thinking, it is pretty sensational, but was there any aspect that you may have agreed with them on that?
When I was watching this episode, one of the things that struck me, because obviously, like, I've seen this episode a bunch of times, but recently, in the last couple of years, like, I've been watching and following along with, as well as Amy, Apple TV's Foundation series, which has a lot to do with statistics and numbers and math. And it's the idea of this guy that's now being looked at as a prophet because he uses math to predict essentially what's going to happen in the future. And it's what you do with that data. And it also goes back to a concept of, free will. Is it all predetermined, or is it just, math? And it's interesting for Cisco to be having this, I guess, this battle within himself, trying to figure out like which option to go with, because he's the prophet, supposedly there to lead the Bajoran people. And so does he go with faith or does he go with science? And Cisco, in this case, went with faith. And I don't know if it's because we're later on in the series, and if earlier he would have went with a different option or whatnot. But what do you guys think about that?
I didn't actually get that there was that struggle with Cisco. It almost seemed quite a reflex action for him to completely dismiss this proposal of Julian's as completely unthinkable. Absolutely not. We're not going to surrender to the Dominion. How dare you even present it? So I love what you've just said, Mark, about the kind of the emissary to the prophets, the religion side of things, because that didn't strike me at all. It just seemed to me as Cisco was quite defiant, no pun intended, in his attitude of surrender, not on my watch.
I just wonder if his opinion would have been the same season 1. That's all.
And what I loved about this is that the first recommendation of, they want this system so that they can make Quetzalcoatl white. And it was like, oh, yeah, well, Cisco took it to Starfleet up the chain of command, and we agree with your recommendations. And so it was like, oh, we got this positive reinforcement of we were doing good, where we've got good analysis. So then for the next analysis to say there is no way for us to win the war, we're going to lose 900 billion people. We need to save these lives. And you understand, yes, we want to save lives, but then to go and commit treason and meet with Damar and say, here, here's some information, just make it happen. In a generation or so, we'll build this resistance and we'll fight back and then we'll be victorious. No. It was a slow warm up to a boil that I really liked, because they started, with a good prediction, with a good outcome. And you can see Bashir where he's like hesitant of meeting them, but then working, seeing their genius, accepting them, and then supporting them. Because when he's going into Quarks and he's, freaking out and, and he's like, well, I will never win this game. And so I'm going to and sort of having a little temper tantrum. And he was, it's like, this is a fact. Here are the predictions. If you don't understand, I can explain it to you. He's being very condescending. But I was like, whoa, hold on. Ooh, Andy also said something. It was probably when he was talking to O'Brien, where he's like, even though it's a long-term projection, our variables, we've worked it out. So it doesn't matter if we have a little outshoot, it's still going to come to this outcome. Okay. You cannot say that as a statistician. I am so sorry. It rubbed me the wrong way. And he's proclaiming that his calculations, or that their calculations, are a fact. Wrong. Obviously, you don't know what a fact is. A fact cannot be in the future. I'm sorry. A fact cannot be in the future. There are variables that you did not account for, as we recognize with what Serena did to release Bashir and save the day. So that was like rubbing me the wrong way, because like, no, it's a prediction. That is exactly what this is, a possibility that could happen. And so for Bashir to go down that rabbit hole, I mean, you saw the progression. It was just wonderful. And then for him to get out of it, I really enjoyed it, even though they had to manipulate the math. But that was really fun for me.
I love how an episode involving so much maths has really set you off, Amy. How dare you use statistics in this manner?
Right? Yes. So our lesson: predictions are not fact.
I just thought it all had a lot of quite Vulcan-esque, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. If they hadn't gone down that mathematical equation route and they just kind of said on with loose kind of statistics that if we surrender the war, fewer people are going to die, and therefore that's better on the long term. And that's probably right. So yeah, that's kind of what I got. But yeah, I'm definitely with Cisco on this one. I don't think surrender would have been a good option.
Yep. Yeah. Cisco made the right call.
Got me thinking though of kind of like real world examples of, I mean, maybe it's because we're in the world of AI and statistics and projections, and I work in a relatively large business as well, that a lot of big decisions are made on forecasting, whether it is allocation of budgets, whether it is labor requirements,
inventory,
and exactly, and it's not, yes, we're talking about a war, which is very different, but these kind of things do happen day in, day out. You get presented with all of these projections, and it struck a chord with me because I have in the past I had to enter into a program of redundancy with a load of people in my team, and I had to in effect make a lot of people redundant just based on these are our customer requirements, this is our delivery need in the different geographical areas. We don't need people who live there, we need people who live here. And the kind of the roll down trickle effect was it made people's jobs at risk. And that was all based on data and projections and sales estimates of where we'll be in 12 months, 18 months. So, and it was very uncomfortable and, very little hand on heart. We know this is going to happen. So I was quite triggered by this episode. I got a little bit of PTSD from a previous manager role I used to do, where I made myself very unpopular by having to lay a lot of people off. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've had any experience or similar feelings where the numbers have got in the way. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I was thinking about, there's been different times in my life where I um, maybe was in a situation that was like a work environment specifically where that was comfortable, right? Like I'm going along and doing things comfortable, but it got to the point where, you know, looking at especially like inflation, looking at maybe travel time, looking at all kinds of different variables where maybe I like the job and I'm comfortable in the job, I'm doing the job a while, but you know, it, mathematically it doesn't make sense that I continue to do that particular job where maybe my gut is telling me, oh, stick it out, you got a good job, you got a good thing going on, you're not miserable, like why not stick it out? But then sometimes you got to go with your head and with the math and be like, yeah, but you know as comfortable as you are, you need really to make this leap to do the more adult thing, to pay more bills, to be able to accomplish like the next step. And sometimes it's like that sort of decision isn't maybe the fun decision. It's not the easy decision because your gut's like, oh, but you're happy enough. You're doing okay. You're not underwater, but you got to take the leap for other reasons, right? And so that's where kind of my head went, is like, oh, when I've had to jump ship from maybe a career path or a job because of just statistics. It's just like, hey, like you're not getting any younger, you want to accomplish this, that, and the other thing in your life. Maybe staying at this job that's not really going anywhere isn't the best course. Okay, look the other way, and you make the decision for yourself. And that's kind of what I took away from it.
Well, you did a hot topic here with data-led decisions, because in education, that is all about making choices of curriculum, what you're teaching the students, all based off of this data that you gather. The one thing that I've seen is that when you're constantly testing your students, you're not having the time to instruct the students. And so I have seen this pendulum swing of, all right, here's your kids, you teach them, you know best, you're the teacher, you're the professional, which I absolutely was. And I loved that until now. There were major testing mandated by the state, by our district, to gather this data. And I'm like, okay, so I lose these days to test, and I lose these days to test, and I lose there 4 tests in 1 year. And that's not just me giving them their chapter unit tests. Like, it was so infuriating that I lost at least 2 weeks of instruction because I have to test, and I already know what my students don't know because I'm their teacher. That's what good teachers do. So it was very irritating, but I get the attraction to, we're going to make decisions based on data. I get that, but it became so overburdensome that it was a negative, in my opinion.
Yeah. And all of these examples that we've just cited, and the example of the episode as well, just go on to prove that we don't send computers out there to do the work. We use that data, but it is overruled or supplemented by emotion, gut feeling, with the human aspect. Yes. So that I just found it very interesting, this aspect of the episode, how it was rejected by Cisco. Shall we take a look at some assimilations and regenerations for the episode? So let's start off. Do you want to start us off, Amy?
Well, I really enjoyed that, how they were able to pick up on Damar and Wayun and sort of this they just read their body language, their vocal, his hesitancy, and he's like, oh, he's killed someone, and it was so intriguing. You know, I'm a big communication person. And so they were seeing more than the words that were coming out of his mouth. Like, and they're like, they want the Cabral system. Like immediately. It was so cool. And they're like, oh, there's the Dark Knight. And they put it into this allegory that was just so beautiful for them to understand. That was really a highlight.
I like the part where they had Wayoon speak in Dominionese because the kind of the universal translation into Federation Standard or English, it would have hidden that kind of vocal inflection. But when he speaks with his mother tongue, it comes out. So I thought that was really smart too. I love that also, Amy.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
It was interesting for me, and I liked the fact that when you are with, I guess, a group of people, some of us can be like, I guess, chameleons and can take on the behaviors and characteristics of the people maybe we're around. And that was highlighted in this episode because when Julian went back to hang out with Miles noticed in him a change in his behavior. And this is a good friend, but he had noticed that he was acting a little bit more arrogant and things like that. And that stood out for me because I'm like, yeah, it's like you tend to, even when we go back to STLV and we come back from STLV, we feel different. We might act different. It's that post STLV sort of glow. You know what I mean? But he was having that same effect, but with the other augments. It's like he was around them so much and working with them that he started to take on some of their characteristics, and Miles was calling him out on it. So good for you, Miles.
I really like the part where Miles just wanted an excuse to go and see Julian, and the augments were all over it straight away, saying there's nothing wrong with that power coupling. You just want to play with your friend. And it's been done so many times throughout Deep Space Nine that when Keiko's away or when Julian's going through a bad time, they just want to hang out. They want to use that kind of bromance, that friendship to get over their troubles, and almost the jealousy aspect that Julian was spending so much time with these guys instead of with him, that he constructed this opportunity to go and see him. I thought it was really cute.
Yeah. One other thing that I really liked was, again, when Bashir was in Quark's bar and he was throwing his little temper tantrum, and he's like, that's in, the odds are in the house. We're not going to win. And Quark, in all of his wisdom, he's like, but they want to believe that they can win. And it's that belief, it's that human gut instinct. And it's like, why Vegas is here, like, why people play the lottery. The odds are you will not win. But having the hope, maybe, just maybe I could win, is strong enough for you to put your hard-earned money and give it away. So it's that battle between, that logic and this human faith, this human desire of this wanting to win. Really, really good. And of course, perfectly to have Quark be saying those words.
Quark would be good in Vegas. I can imagine Quark's resort and casino being a big winner down there on the Strip. And we'd have somewhere great for STLV if Quark ran it.
Oh, the scene with Odo, sort of towards the end, where he came in on Wayoon and Damar, and caught them sort of trying to get that intel. And, it's just, it was regular Odo just being gruff and curmudgeon-y. And then Wayoon, of course, doing the whole, oh, you're like a god to me, sort of, your presence blesses me kind of a thing. The whole exchange, it had so many threads of the whole arc of Deep Space Nine, just in that small scene. There were so many boxes that got checked, and it made me smile. And I love that when you see moments of the whole arc sort of come together, and even Damar's character as well. It was really cool, and it made me smile, and I like that part of the episode.
Good stuff. So, if we've got our assimilations down, what have we got for a regeneration? Is there anything you want to start us off with there, Amy?
Yeah. Again, very predictable for Worf to be the one to stick his foot in his mouth. Oh my gosh. Again, when going in that Cisco quarters with all of them and they should not be allowed. Well, I'm in here. Well, you're the exception. And he's just, I mean, I can hear him sitting around TNG, the poker table, putting that's a woman's game. Come on, Worf, get
Yeah.
over it. But we need to have a character like him so that we can recognize we don't want to sound like him. As Riker says, do you even hear yourself? People need to hear themselves. And if they can see and if they can agree with Worf and then get rebuffed, then maybe they can change their mind. So he's annoying, and I'm glad that we don't sound like Worf being just so bigoted all the time.
So I had a problem with Jack and Lauren for the reasons we've already stated. Jack was a little too over the top for me, and when he was on screen, I just kind of wanted to fast forward. Lauren, same thing, way too sex pot, over the top. Just we get it, you're horny, but her character wasn't exactly fleshed out. Now, Serena, that actress did a really good job. Faith C. Sally, I think is her
Yeah.
name. Anyway, I thought she
Yeah.
did a good job for having no lines. She acted the crap out of it. And the guy that played Patrick, he had just the right level of sensitivity and childlike nature where it wasn't distracting. He did a good job in the role. So those two actors, I don't know if it was maybe the writing or the acting, but either way, yeah, Jack and Lauren, not so much. Serena and Patrick, they did all right.
Yeah. I found the Patrick character a little bit distasteful because it was on the cusp of playing it for comedy, and it didn't really feel acceptable, certainly not in this day and age, to be laughing at someone who clearly has a mental illness, in those kind of childlike mannerisms. And it just seemed a little bit like almost laughing at someone with Down syndrome. And it jarred. It jars in 2023, unlike maybe if I watched this episode 10 years ago. Maybe that's because of society's change or because I've grown up a little bit. But I don't remember enjoying that portrayal as much as I did 10 years ago.
At STLV, there was a panel that was talking tech, and as they always do, and it reminded me, and I saw this episode of why are there so many pads? And for some reason, these pads looked dormant, like they didn't seem active. They just seemed like a prop. Um, and it's like, well, this one has this information, this one has this, and it's like, no, this is a major huge technology where I'm sure you could have many files, probably more files than we have on our current iPads. Like, it just was, I understand why they did it, because it's like, oh, all this information and look at all this work we've done. But I'm telling you, one pad would have been enough, and he could have just been like swiping, or pushing a button and see this next one and then see this next one. Let me show you this equation. Like, it could have been done better than just having 10 different pads that looked static. They didn't have life. Do you know what I'm saying? They were just
Yeah.
a prop. Yeah.
Where was the science consultant on this one? You'd think
Yes.
that somebody would have been like, hey, in the future, all the little pads might be able to do the same function. Oh, I don't know. Shocking.
Well, in the future, iPads are free, so you can have as many as you want.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't like the term mutant that they used a lot in this episode. For a start, it just kind of took me down the X-Men route. So it kind of took me out the franchise. But it's only when you look back that the acknowledged term that we use now of augment wasn't really coined when Deep Space Nine was on. It only started during Enterprise Season 4 in the Soong Borderland Coast Station 12 kind of trilogy. And that trilogy has got a lot to answer for because it set the tone for what augments are, which has kind of carried through into Lower Decks, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and so on. So it's weird to go back to do an augment episode without hearing the term augment. So yeah, I didn't get the mutant feel of it. Not for me.
Yeah, makes sense.
One little side note as well, more of a humorous point. There was this was obviously a big example of odds and chance and probability. And it just got me thinking that every time you get a character in Star Trek saying to the captain, we have a 10% chance, or the odds of us getting through this are 2%, it's always Tuvok, it's always Data, it was always Spock. And the captains always just ignore it and do it anyway. And everything always works out. So what the hell is going on with the laws of probability in the future? It's just really bad.
That is funny. I can, as you're saying it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was seeing specific, conversations in my head.
You cannot defy the laws of physics, Captain. Okay, I'm done with my Scotty impersonations for the week. I will hang up my hat. Thank you.
I'll warn Joe not to listen.
Oh, he doesn't want to hear infinite diversity this week. I went nuts.
Apologies to all our listeners in Scotland. And I'm traveling to Scotland in the morning, so please don't come and find me. It was Mark. It wasn't me.
Are you going to have some haggis? Okay, I'm done. I'm really done now.
Right. Okay. Let's jump over and look at some trivia for the episode. What have we got?
Well, director Anson Williams is better known as the actor who plays Potsy on Happy Days. I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Now, for some reason, unexplained reason, when it came for the casting of Lauren, the sex-mad augment, the entire writing team insisted on being in the casting session.
Oh,
That's interesting, huh? I wonder why.
Oh, listeners, if you can't tell, did a huge eye roll.
Yeah. Another example of Deep Space Nine's behind the scenes being a boys' club. And sorry, Ira, we love you. You gave us some great female characters, but a little female perspective in the writing room would have gone down much better. I don't know if anyone recognized, but Hillary, who played Lauren, has actually been in DS9 before, in the season earlier, and she was the Benzonite pilot on the runabout that crashed into the planet on the ship. So she played Hoya was the character's name, but clearly in very heavy prosthetic, if you can imagine the Benzites, what they look like. Yeah, I didn't recognize that until reading up on this.
Oh, lovely.
Very cool.
Well, Ransom, the actor who plays Jack, says that he played Jack as someone who drank 40 cups of coffee a day.
Oh, Lord. That's even much for me.
Oh, yeah, that constant repetitive, yes, no, that was annoying. So, I mean, kudos to him. He got us to have an emotional response, and that's what good actors do.
Well, Serena only had 4 lines of dialogue in the scene where she unties Bashir. However, due to time constraints, these were cut, and she was fully mute throughout the episode. This wasn't a bad thing, as it led to the follow-up episode in the next season, Chrysalis.
Yeah, apparently the actress told all her friends she was in the episode and there was this viewing party, and she didn't actually know her lines had been cut until, and they kind of all looked at her and said, so like you were just an extra.
Oh, that's sad.
But she did get that fabulous episode afterwards. And also, Serena Douglas is a very important character in the books. So she has a full Section 31 storyline with Bashir where they kind of become agents themselves and have their own storyline. So if anyone is a Serena fan from this episode and the next one, I invite you to go and read all the DS9 Section 31 books. You'll love them. Right, okay. Shall we have an important message from the network?
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Trexperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Wow, the computer voice sounds a lot like Amy Nelson. Interesting how that works out, right?
Well, it's sort of like pets. When you're around long enough, you sort of sound and act like each other and start looking
Yeah.
like each other. Yeah.
It's like Deanna Troy's mom sounds a lot like the Enterprise
Right?
computer. I mean,
Exactly.
it's very
Yes.
similar.
What are the chances? What are the
What are
chances?
the chances?
So, final thoughts. Mark, what did you think of statistical probabilities? How would you sum up the conclusion?
So Genetic Engineering series is a really fun series for me. I love these episodes in general. Of them, this is probably my least favorite, and it's also one of my lesser favorite Deep Space Nine episodes. I think because of the cringy nature of some of the augments. And yeah, I don't know. It's just it's not one of my go-tos. But it's nice. It's always nice, even with the episodes that I don't necessarily love. It's nice to go back with a fresh set of eyes and look at them for a particular reason. Like this was a deep dive for genetic engineering, and so while I was watching the episode, I was watching it sort of with that lens, and I got a different appreciation for it. So I appreciate the opportunity to rewatch and discuss with you guys, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks.
Actually, this is one of the episodes that I remember the title and what the show is about. Probably because it has to do with math. But the discussion that they have, I mean, they're giving us the spectrum of mutants, if you will, and what can go wrong and how do we treat them. Like they're locked up in an institute. I mean, locked up is generous, but they're there and they're not going anywhere else. So we can say locked up. and the treatment. How is Starfleet, how is the Federation dealing with these augments, and the stigma that goes around with it. We get to see that. So this episode is rich with discussion, as we have had today, and I love discussing it with you.
Thanks. I think this episode would have really benefited from a B plot. It was all very focused around the matter of hand. So if they'd have really stretched out the Weyoun and Damar coming to the station, Jadzia Dax was barely in this episode, so automatically it's not a winner for me. But yeah, just a little. It was all very one note. It was very heavy on the the Julian aspect.
That is a good suggestion. It would be better with a B plot. Oh my gosh, great.
Why don't you give us a little sneak peek, Amy, of where we're going next week? Because we have, I believe, a very special episode.
We do, listeners. We are going to recap our experience at STLV. Very exciting. We're going to have a lot of guests who were there hanging out with us to get their experience. One thing that I have noticed with STLV and any Trek convention is that people experience it in different ways. And so to get their different perspectives is so wonderful. Like, I have been telling my perspective for 7 years now. So we're going to have a bunch of guests, some from the network, some who are listeners, to talk about STLV and the convention this year in Las Vegas 2023.
And when you say perspectives, I take it you just don't mean drunk or sober.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Let's see how many guests remember STLV.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Scrolling through people's pictures, there was one I'm like, I do not remember taking this picture. And like, I was posing and everything.
Oh, there was one with was it the guy Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Johnny. Yeah.
Well, no.
Oh.
There was one with him where he posted it and I was in it.
Mhm.
And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
See?
cool.
Oh, there I am.
There I am. Thanks, Johnny. No, I love the photo. No recollection of taking it, but it's cool. Thanks. It's a great photo.
It helps piece the weekend together
does.
retrospectively. Well, listeners, we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our discussion in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. You can also tweet your thoughts at AllGoodPod. Please make sure you follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching the master feed. So, Amy, where can people find you when you're not lay on your back hypersexualized?
Oh, Lord.
O'Brien.
Well, when I'm not doing that, and what a handsome man he is, you can find me here on the network where I'm co-hosting Galaxy Class and Union Federation. I am on X. That sounds sexy too. I'm Twitter, X, whatever. At Miss Amy Nelson. Yeah, that's my handle. Obviously, I'm not there a lot because I spend most of my time in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. And Mark, where can people find you when you are trading Starfleet secrets to Damar and Weyoun?
I am just trying to prevent casualties, Amy. That's all. When I'm not doing that, you guys can also find me in the Facebook group, the BQN Collective. I'm also on Twitter/X at MarkWhite207. I'm on Blue Sky Social at MW207. And if you become a patron of the network on Patreon, I have a show, It's Green. Oh, and I also have a whole other show where I might have mentioned I like movies. Well, I talk about movies on this podcast. It's called Cinema Z. It's also part of BQN. And it's a heck of a lot of fun. So even if you haven't seen the films we cover, please check out the pod because you'll just laugh. And Kelvin, where can people find you when you are not, as my good buddy, putting me in my place when I'm starting to act a little too arrogant.
Never. When I'm not doing that, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Kelvin's Timeline, or you can find me on Facebook in the BQN Collective Facebook group, where I would love to chat with you all.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review that helps others to find the show. You can also follow our entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching BQN.
At this time, we would like to thank our associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and Tim Cooper. Special thanks to Grain Kelly for our opening and closing music, and our very own Mark White for our artwork each and every week.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We'll add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we continue to search out
All good things.